I've been a teacher. I am also a professional local realtor. After the Great Recession of 2008, I realized how important it is to have multiple streams of income to support my family and expand my charitable giving. In this adventure, I'm not alone. Today, nearly 50% of Americans have multiple revenue sources. This is why I'm hosting Streams, a show dedicated to why people have pursued work beyond their 9 to 5s. Hello, welcome. John Drawless here. Excited to be here for episode 2. That's not Revenge of the Sith, or was it Attack of the Clones or whatever? No, just episode 2 Streams. Very excited for what we have in store today. But want to throw a couple of new pieces of information out your way, and a bit, I guess, serendipitous that we start this program and things are all happening right now. As earlier this week, we found out that there's going to be major funding cuts to education. And so, of course, being a realtor and a teacher, this is hitting myself and a lot of my colleagues, particularly close to home. And so what a prime example of why it's important to have multiple revenue streams is this hit is not going to hit those of us, because many of us in the teaching profession do have multiple streams of income. It doesn't hit us as hard. And so we can continue to still focus on the work and the job at hand, even though there's these cuts to our salaries. I mean, nobody really wants that, but that's the reality, and we can get through it. And so really what's happening right now is one of the main reasons why I do this show. I do believe it is an important idea to go ahead and follow your passions, invest in yourself when those opportunities are there. Okay. And also, we're going to add a segment onto the show this week that is, I'm going to call it the Stream of the Week. And so just kind of looking at different jobs that you could be doing or that you could be looking for. If you're looking for different ideas that could be an additional revenue source for you. Okay, so look for that segment today as well. But with me today, Mr. Everything, I call, as a teacher, I'm a teacher of history. And so you look at Leonardo da Vinci, the guy back in the Renaissance, a little bit of everything. And so my good friend, Ryan Kroge right now, you'll see he is a modern day Renaissance man, and how he has the energy to do it. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. But without further ado, introducing Ryan Kroge. Ryan, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. This is great. What an intro.
Yeah, well, hey, thanks when you paid me off, right? So it's all good. So Ryan, a little bit of everything here, and I have on the banner here just some of the different things that you do related to commercial loan brokerage, KLM equity. So tell me a little bit about your background and kind of how you advance into kind of different ideas. There are different revenue streams. So go ahead. So
I started basically in 2000, immediately right at the height of the .com bubble, when everything kind of exploded for the first time in my working career in finance. The only job I could find at the time was specializing in SBA lending, which at the time, no one really wanted anything to do with in year 2000. So I was that kid, fresh out of college, fresh with a degree, like I need to make a way in the world. I'll go ahead and I'll learn this. And pretty much from about 2000 up into the recession, it was just a basic job. It was a niche. You were kind of pigeonholed. It was a necessity of a lender, more of a Community Reinvestment Act type feather in their hat to be able to, tout that they do that type of lending. And then the Great Recession happened, and it became one of the go-to lending vehicles in the entire country. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, outside of doing any type of 9 to 5 W-2 type income generation, my brother and I owned a couple houses here and there, and we were fortunate enough that we realized we couldn't be the best. We're better brothers than we are business partners. So we ended up selling them all prior to the big collapse, which was a godsend. And then once SBA lending really took off, I found out that not only was I in a niche, but I was pretty much in the only niche that was able to deploy capital to Main Street. So I really started, my career really took off at that point during the recession. And a lot of the smartest entrepreneurs that I did business with and that I lent money to had multiple sources of income.
Yeah.
And I had just pretty much gotten rid of anything other than my W-2 income that I had. So over the last, the first 5 years of the recession, as I'm seeing those who were initially in investments or financial services, initially construction, initially any other industry that was really getting hit hard by the recession, were retooling. And they were retooling quick. They were finding out where the need was. They were finding out where they can make money. That I started realizing that there's a mindset out there that I really need to focus on. And that's that mindset that regardless of what's going on externally, you've got to find a way to take your talents, your knowledge, and the people you know to find a way to diversify your income and still generate a positive trajectory on cash flow. And I was very fortunate enough. I was surrounded by some really good customers, some really good friends, and some really good people that I had networked with that were able to mentor me and kind of given me a vision on how it can be done.
Yeah.
I had a really good friend who was in construction, and obviously in the recession when everything really died, he had nothing to build. So he decided to go the opposite route and buy up equipment, CNC machines, lathes, things that were just getting laid out on the manufacturing floor, not being used, being sold pennies on the dollar. And he was buying them from banks and everywhere else that was liquidating them. And the ones that couldn't be repaired, he was selling for scrap and breaking even. Those that were able to be repaired and refurbished, he was selling to other places. He was selling them to China. He was selling them to Indonesia. He was selling them all across the world, making maybe 10, 20% return on his money. But once the economy exploded and the machinery and equipment were in high need again, these manufacturing plants needed to get up and running. And instead of buying a $500,000 lathe, they were buying it from him for $250,000 when he bought it at auction for $12,000. Right. So that's when his income really started taking off. And now he's back into construction again, doing very well. Because my business took off so well, I did fairly well financially. And it gave me the ability to team up with other individuals, other entrepreneurs that knew more about a segment of business that I didn't. So it gave me the opportunity to put my money and rely on other people who had the expertise and the knowledge to take something and grow it. So I started getting into other retail aspects that we have held off for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. But then I took my own expertise and got a return on the money from other individuals and went into brokerage. So while I was doing really, really well with SBA lending, that's not all that everybody was going after. And it's still, I felt very pigeonholed, just SBA lending, just SBA lending. And like any salesperson, anybody who loves to have their hands in multiple things, you hate to say no. That guy says, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, I can't help you. Let me send you to somebody else. Mm-hmm. Why send you to somebody else when I have the knowledge? I know what you need. I know how to get it done. I can just retool, reinvest my network, and place it for you. Thus, when I started doing loan brokerage outside of SBA. Yeah. So any type of commercial properties, anything that didn't qualify for SBA, anything outside of the scope that would not fit into my normal 9 to 5, I would get a brokerage agreement. I would tool it up, and I had lenders across the country that I was selling loans to and doing quite well. And that's still a part of my business that I carry on today, just because I'm autopilot on it. It's a part of my business that's been lucrative, and it's a part of my business that's very complementary to my core business.
Okay.
Outside of that, I've invested in, like I said, 1 or 2 different retail spots. We were going to do a butcher locally and decided to keep it wholesale because a good spot hadn't opened up because of the prices. And we're really glad that we did, because wholesale is doing very well. And obviously retail is doing nothing right now. We would have been, hurt quite a bit. Yeah. We've had some investments that didn't go good. And you know what? I'm fine with that, because I would rather learn, retool, learn from my mistakes, get additional people in and make it right the next time and really take off.
So what you're saying is that that perfection isn't needed right off the bat, that you can go ahead and stumble a little bit, dust yourself off, and stand up again.
Oh, absolutely. And high risk, high reward. Some people don't have the risk tolerances to really jump out there. I can tell you, with a risk management background, I really don't. So I'm a relatively conservative investor. I'm a relatively conservative risk taker, but I do know the limits of my limit of my tolerances. So I invest myself. I strategically put myself with individuals that are smarter than me in whatever I'm putting my money, and I'm willing to do that and take a much lower equity position in order to get a better ROI, as opposed to being 100% jumping into an idea that I've maybe seen a half dozen YouTube videos on and think I know what's going on, and then losing 100% of my money. Or I could be a 20% investor, put 20% in, surround myself with some really smart individuals who understand that market, and have it grow.
Yeah.
Positive cash flow beats negative cash flow any day.
Oh, I mean, what's the what's the phrase that Cuban always goes with, right? You can own 20% of a watermelon, 100% of a grape. What do you want?
Right. Exactly.
And I bring this up as well because obviously I know a little bit of your background, a little bit of your story, but it's interesting how certain things translate from actually a lot of things translate from from the spiritual from our spiritual background into our professional background, because every time as you're explaining through this, I'm thinking, well, that's the same way that you kind of walk through life, right? And so spiritually, you want somebody ahead of you that can guide it and show you the path, and then somebody you can kind of. And then what you're describing in the business world is the exact same thing. Hey, someone who's smarter than me who can kind of show me the way, and then I can bring a few other people along as well.
Right.
So amazing how things translate in that sense. Now, what are kind of the obstacles in the path for obviously, you're 9 to 5. You have to have a degree in order to do what you're doing. But in like these other revenue streams, what are sort of the obstacles? What's the pathway that someone would have to do in order to do some of these alternate streams?
Really, it's this. This is my phone. If you can't see it, it's my phone. It's my network.
Yeah.
I mean, this is worth millions in my eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have been able to break out and place loans elsewhere, help individuals in consulting, exit strategies I do with another business partner of mine. I would not have been able to do that if I did not have the resources or the customer base. And what I mean by the customer base is, I mean, not just how many people I've served, but how many people I've served well.
Yeah.
And you don't win them all. You don't always walk away with the happiest customer 100% of the time, but the ones that you always try to serve the best, and the ones, and whenever you have a customer, you always try to end it and serve them to the best of your ability. They're the ones that are going to trust you, and they're the ones that are going to send additional people to you, and they're the ones that are going to keep you afloat. Oh. And so my customer base, my network, the people that I've done business with for the last 21 years in this industry are my mainstay. They're the ones that are keeping me going, keeping me hustling, and just reaching for other different opportunities. So I try to, like I say, I try to surround myself with, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. If I'm the smartest person in the room, I am doing something wrong. I want to surround myself with individuals that are smarter than me, but can complement everything that I can bring to the table, so that we can collectively make a lot of money, which is why I have my office with a pretty well-known local CPA firm, because I bounce a lot of ideas off them. We do side businesses together. Whenever there's an opportunity that comes up, we serve each other. And I serve a purpose there, being a resource for lending for their customers. So there's a lot of synergies with the people that I strategically put myself around. Because before the quarantine, I could be here. I could be working from home, remotely, doing everything. But that doesn't get me out there. That doesn't put me in front of the people that I need to be in front of in order to get better ideas, in order to learn more, and more importantly, in order to partner with different people who can take me to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the pieces that we're continually trying to pivot, to find out how this new normal can work alongside that, because there's just nothing like and it's all a human endeavor. And so being in a human to human business, you got to be with humans. So, It's amazing how that works. Now, now you have 4 children.
Correct. Yes.
And so I know you're, devoted husband, devoted father. How do you balance all of this?
I've got an amazing wife who is not just my life partner, not just my spouse, but she's a business partner as well. She has doesn't necessarily need to be on paper, but she helps run some of these businesses as she runs the household. So we really do pick up where the other one drops off. So if she needs work or I need help, we kind of switch it up. She knows some of my customers in different aspects of my business. And obviously vice versa, I can go over here and make the kids cereal or whatever type of dinner that I have. That they need. So it's been a little bit difficult with the quarantine because not only do we have to be entrepreneurial and parents, but we also have to be teachers. Which, I mean, as parents, we have to be teachers all the time. But I mean more in the sense of what you're used to, John, is actually teaching math, which I haven't taken. I mean, it's part of my job, but I haven't taken the type of math that they're getting taught in a long time. So it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun too. You got to find ways and find a nice work balance relationship. And like I say, you team up with people so that you can spread responsibilities around, so that you have partners that have time with their family. You get to have time with your family. It's all about the equity. It's all about the E theory. You get people who can spend more of their time operating your business while you have an equity stake in it. You either bring capital or you bring some sort of value add to it, to where you're not devoting 100% of your time. And that's how you can stretch from having one W-2 salary to having your normal W-2 salary and then adding on 6 other forms of income.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I think that's one of the you mentioned the idea of risk aversion earlier. And so I think it's one of the reasons why people don't jump into multiple streams is, well, how can I balance all this and still be mom, still be dad? How can I do all this still? And, you're talking about like just the intentionality of it. And I think it's awesome. The symbiotic nature that you and your wife have and the partnership that you have in order to make all of this work and to still be what you need to be at home as well. So absolutely awesome. Now, where do you see things going? Where do so kind of off the cuff about probably a couple of weeks ago, you kind of on the side mentioned that you're interested in getting up to 7 or 8 streams. And so like 5 years from now, where do you see yourself, or how's that going to work?
That's a great question, because it's literally changed within just the last 3 months. All right. And so for the last year, maybe even 2 years, we've been looking at getting together about 4 or 5 different investors and starting to buy income producing properties and keep a portfolio of income producing properties where we can hire 1, 2, or maybe even a team of people to manage it while we put the capital into it, and then just basically what a lot of people are doing right now. The one thing, my stepfather's a really good man, and I like him a lot. He gave me some really good advice years ago, and that is, don't be a lemming. You see society running towards a certain thing, running towards a certain investment, hold back, wait, and see if they're running off a cliff.
Yeah.
He was right about the .com bubble. He was right about the housing bubble. And I just see right now, real estate, where you're in, residential real estate, staying steady, going up. And anybody who's renting apartment complexes, things of that nature, starting to go up. Where I see opportunity, and this is just my opinion from what I see, is machinery and equipment and different type of commercial property that can be easily converted. It's easily fungible, that can convert into something else, because we're going to see office space vacancies going up. People are getting used to working from home. Like Google, Twitter, all those guys send everybody to work from home for the rest of the year. You're going to see hospitality is going to take a big hit and is going to continue taking a big hit. I don't know if those out there watching that are big in commercial real estate, we've all been shaking our head and itching it like, how are all these new hotels being built around the Metro Detroit area? It just doesn't make sense. The market is so saturated. So there's going to be a fallout there. Retail obviously is going to have a ton of issues over the next 3 to 5 years, and there's going to be opportunities in them.
Right.
I don't know what they are yet. I'm keeping my eye open. I'm trying to figure it out. Like I said, I'm not always the smartest guy in the room, so I'm asking other individuals who know a lot about these properties, a lot about these businesses, asking a couple people about machinery and equipment. And I'm not just talking about the CNCs and lathes again. I'm talking about other type of equipment that can be found in retail, communications, that could be recycled, resold, anything like that. So it's just about keeping an eye open before we actually jump into something.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know right now my core business has been phenomenal during this because people need access to capital. P3 is done. EIDL is done.
Mm-hmm.
Banks are kind of sitting on the sideline. So
Right.
there are financial institutions out there lending. So I'm doing 3 things that I'm really focusing on. I'm still focusing on my SBA lending, number one. That's core business right there. Always have to focus on core business. Number 2, the brokerage. People need capital on all their properties, different type of business acquisitions. We're looking at different opportunities to put all that out there. And then even business brokering, buying and selling businesses, taking on clientele and marketing and trying to introduce one business owner to another business owner and making things happen that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one that's going to be the biggest over the next couple of years is going to be any type of consulting, any type of exit strategy consulting, because let's face it, the boomer generation is getting hit so hard over the last 20 years in their operation. Mm-hmm. And there's only so much that they're going to take until they're through their 70s and they need to get out. So exit strategies are going to be critically important. Surrounding yourself with financial managers who know how to invest the money after you sell a business and after you get out. That's going to be crucially important as well. I've partnered up with a couple people to be able to put together a group to help those out, consulting on their financial statements, what they should look like, how to make a company more attractive to a buyer, where to find those buyers, how to market yourself, how to market your employees, how to find a successor manager from internally, and how do they afford to take over your business, things like that. And we've got tax professionals who can tell them the benefits of taking a lump sum now or stretching it out over a period of time. So a lot of those opportunities are coming up. And they were big about 10 years ago too, and they're going to be big again because a lot of people were projecting that once the quarantine was over, we were going to see this big V curve launch into the economy and things were just going to explode and everything was going to be better than it was before. But now economists are taking an even closer look and thinking it's going to be a really slow crawl to get out of this and extremely volatile over the next 2 to 3 years, it means there's a lot of money's going to sit on the sideline. It means that a lot of business owners are going to be very risk adverse. They're going to be very hesitant to do anything. And it's going to be up to others out there, financial professionals, those who have seen this before, those who understand the business, to really kind of navigate them through these waters.
Right. Yeah. And, because I think coinciding with that is one, you're looking at, the fears and sitting on the sidelines. It's just like the what if of the scenario, right? Where, is there going to be a second wave? Is there going to be, so not knowing all that, and that, I mean, uncertainty, people kind of, tighten their grips and stuff like that, which is understandable. But to your point that the economy is never totally down, right? There's always segments that are going to be doing well. So, I mean, even during the recession in 2008, well, if you were a bankruptcy lawyer, then you did pretty well at that time. So
right.
there's always segments that are going to be doing well. And so if you can just position yourself and cooler heads always prevail and say, okay, how can I position myself to continue to do the things and do the things that I value and support my family in the way I want to support it. So
it's just being able, like I said, my Rolodex is probably the most valuable asset that I have, because there's a lot of smart individuals in there, and there's going to be a significant amount of opportunity. There's always an opportunity, regardless of what the economy is doing. There's always an opportunity, regardless of what society is doing. You just have to surround yourself with smart enough people to help you realize it yourself. Just look at the trends and find out where the arbitrage are and where you can jump in and fill a need.
Yes. Yeah. Love it. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Speaking truth there, my friend. Now, little tradition on streams. We always end the show with throwing our guests into the gauntlet. So you got 5 questions.
I'm excited.
All right, and for the millions of people watching at home, so here's what happens. Okay, I'm going to ask Ryan a question, and he's going to just answer it internally. And then there's actually going to be 5 questions total. At the end of those 5 questions, those of you at home, you post on Facebook your answers to those 5 questions. Then we're going to go back through. Ryan's going to give his answers, and if your answers match his, then you win. I'm going to send you a gift card to a fancy Seattle coffee house where you can get a free coffee from a Seattle company. You can probably get which one it is. So, all right, Ryan, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, perfect. All right, first question. You can only do one. Endurance training or weight training? I know you got to love exercise, and this is a tough question.
That's a really tough one.
So, all right. Ready for question 2?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Driving a car.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it a sports car. Manual or automatic transmission? Okay. Question 3. Board games or video games?
All right.
So how do you spend your nerd time? Okay. I noticed you have many leather-bound books behind you, and so when you're doing your reading, fiction or nonfiction? Okay. And I got to go full nerd on you here. And if you have to choose the series, Star Wars. Now this is all of them, so no, like, oh no, just the original 3. No, you got to take all 9 of the Skywalker saga, or Lord of the Rings, but you also have to include the Hobbit trilogy. So you have to take the good with the bad. So that's the one you got to figure out. All right, we ready to answer these now?
I am ready.
Here we go. All right. Question 1: endurance training or weight training?
I am going to go with weight training.
Weight training. All right. Why is that?
I love them both. I love them a lot. But the weight training, I feel more. The pump is amazing.
Yeah.
So endurance training, you're done, you're sore, and I like them both, but I got weight training wins.
And the pump does something to the confidence too. I mean, you got
nothing beats a pump. And if anybody's ever seen that Arnold documentary from back in the 70s, you know exactly where I'm going with it.
So, if I didn't mention earlier, in addition to all the jobs that Ryan has, he's also an endurance athlete, runs marathons, does triathlons. So yeah. All right, manual or automatic?
Manual. That's easy.
Yeah.
I love manual. I know, I get it. With technology today, automatic transmissions are faster, but nothing beats the feel of actually driving your car.
Yes.
Actually driving. Manual, boy. I had my first 2 cars were manual, and I'd love to get another one.
Oh my! So here's another reason, right? Is my next car is probably I'm gonna switch back to a manual. I haven't had one since college, and but my wife can't drive one, right? And so now there's no question. This is my car,
right? And it's no question. See, I've got teenagers in the house, and they're not allowed to drive my cars anyway. But if I have manual, I just know they won't be able to touch it.
Yeah.
But then, what kind of father would I be if I didn't teach my kids how to drive a manual?
Right.
I might even get my kids a manual as one of their first cars so that they can't text and drive.
Exactly. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. All right. How do you nerd at home? Board games or video games?
I am going to say it's kind of a combination of both. I'm going to go video games.
Okay.
The reason being my kids love video games. So we have the Switch. We have PS4, but we actually love playing board games on the Switch. So
Okay.
we have like Monopoly, Trivial Pursuit, Risk, and a bunch of these other ones. So when we have game night, we play board games, but we play them on the video game.
Mhm.
And my daughters and I do like to beat them up in some Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers. So
It's still make sure they know who's who's in charge,
you
right?
never know who's boss. I've got to hit them with a red turtle shell to let them know that.
Love it. All right. Fiction or nonfiction?
I'm going to say nonfiction.
Okay.
I've gone through. I used to read a ton of fiction, but with the maturity of my spiritual life, because I've been turning to more faith-based books.
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot of faith-based books, especially with a lot of things that have been going on in the world. It just, with the way society has really tried to push God out of their lives, push God out of society, push God out of different aspects of the world. I really like to read and see what some of the better theologians out there have to say about it. I'm in the middle of Abdu Murray's most recent book. It's phenomenal. It's about post-truth society here in America and how people are just throwing away what actual facts are, and if they believe their own opinion, they're turning it to facts, and that's their truth. And it's really causing a huge ripple in our society. And I think he's really hit the nail on the head with this one.
Oh,
I'm enjoying it a lot.
100%. 100%. And if you're, those of you watching at home, you're like, what is he talking about? Just scroll through social media anytime and you'll see exactly what he's talking about.
Exactly.
All right. The question of the day. All right. So all Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, but you have to include The Hobbit.
Now, The Lord of the Rings, I like The Hobbit. I read this. So when the books all came out, I'm sorry, not the books. Book came out years ago, but when the movies came out, I read the books to my daughters. So we sat in the living room and I read the Lord of the Rings books, and then we'd go and watch them in the theater, or we'd watch them. They were too young for when Lord of the Rings came out, so we'd watch them on DVD. And then when The Hobbit came out, I read them the book The Hobbit leading up to going out and seeing it in the theater. So it was a really good bonding experience with my kids to read the books. And they get all the, obviously the books are better, and they get a lot of the scenes that aren't in the movie. So they love that. But I'm a fanboy. I got to go with Star Wars. All 9 of them, man. And even the extended ones, too. So I have to go with Star Wars.
You just
down there of Star Wars novels that I've actually read that are in between the movies.
On the expanded universe?
The expanded universe. I love Star Wars. I'm a secret nerd. I'm a fanboy for a very long time with Star Wars.
You just pulled a total Lee Corso, right? Like, I'm going to lead you this way. Not so fast, my friend. So I absolutely love it. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks.
And again, I think you provide a lot of inspirational words for everybody watching at home. And as far as that it can be done, that balance is key. Having people that inspire you and that can pull you along, and then also recognizing where things are going and how to position yourself accordingly. I think you just provide a lot of really solid gold for everybody watching at home. So I do appreciate you coming on board. And thank you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it, man. This is great.
So
wish you all the best of luck with this show. I think it's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. So so then, as I mentioned, we're going to close things out today with I was going to provide you with just the news stream of the week. And one thing I want you to look into for those of you at home thinking about, bringing in another multiple stream, another stream of income, is take into consideration social media management. Now, if you look online, it says that you do need, that most people need a degree. But if you're a freelance, here's kind of how things are going in the new economy, where if you can show that you can do that sometimes that mitigates the need for actually having a degree. So take a look into social media management, because I know with my real estate business, there's so many different things that I have to take care of. If I didn't have to take care of my social media, if I had somebody else take care of that for me, that would be basically like a dream come true. So take a look at that as a possible revenue source. And that will I'll see you next week. I'm going to bring on Jeremy McCall, and who also works in education and in the field of social work. So that being said, have a great day. Have a great week. Get outside. It's going to be beautiful, and God bless.